Good evening and welcome to Face to Face, the show where we talk with local broadcasters here in South Dakota. 2 words can describe my guest today: class clowns. I am with the morning DJs at Mix 97.3, Ben Davis and Patty D. Thanks both for being here today.
Well, thanks for having us.
Can you each give a quick biography to our viewers at home?
Of my past, present, future?
Just, of yourself.
Of myself? I was born a poor white Minnesotan. And
he still is.
Moved around a little bit and have been in radio for about, 15 years, I suppose.
What are you looking at me for?
I was hoping you were
I would know.
Patty and I have been working together for a number of years, and that's my Cliff Note version.
Boy, I was born in Montana. I've lived in South Dakota a long time. I've been in radio for a while. How long do you think that is?
Well, let's see. Marconi invented it.
We were like that. I've been in radio for 22 years, and we've been together for 7, I think.
When did you first get an interest to go into radio and broadcasting?
Well, we both have theater backgrounds, and
really?
Yeah, and that's what I wanted to do originally when I was in college, is have a career in theater, but it just doesn't pay so well.
Where did you start in theater? In high school, or?
Yep, did high school and college theater. I traveled with a professional group for 1 season, and I took that $100 and bought food, and then I took a position at a small radio station and kind of worked in radio on and off since that time.
Really? And Patty, you did what did you do for theater?
I started as a kid, and then same thing, high school, college. Got a bachelor's degree in theater and put that to use, waiting tables. And
she played the lead in Showboat.
Yes. In fact, I'll be playing the lead again.
Yes.
Really loved it, and it was just kind of an accident that I got into radio. And most people in radio don't like to hear the story, but it was just, I knew someone at a radio station. They needed an overnight person, and the program director was a friend of my sister's in high school. He asked if I could read 5 minutes of news, and I said sure, and he hired me, and that's how I got in radio.
So did you guys get any education in college for radio at all? Or?
I got very little education in college. Now around college, I got a lot of education. I spent about, I suppose, a little over 2 years in college, and I never got a degree. Patty spent 6 or 8 years in college, actually. She's a professor, actually.
I was the only one in my family that made it in 4 years. Thank you.
Did you really?
I did.
That is incredible.
Thank you.
She's actually a trained gynecologist. A lot of people don't know that either. But we took...
yeah, let me show you. Anyway.
I took mainly theater courses and then some of the required stuff, but my main interest at that time was hanging out in the theater department and hanging out with the theater folks. What was the original question?
Did you have any radio training in college? No, neither one of us.
No.
What exactly did you learn when you first started in radio?
At the time I was in it, the basics at that time, we both started with turntables. And,
the old...
Oh yeah, you've heard of those records? Mm-hmm. And that was the main thing, learning how to start those, because you had the stylist and you had to cue them up just right, so that when you started the record you didn't get a wow or you didn't have too much pause, so you had to be able to time those just right. And if you could do that, you could basically have a career in radio.
Talking about the gear ones or the regular ones?
I think I started out, no, we started out with
the gear ones.
These were digital.
Oh.
This was back in...
that would have been 89 or 90.
Really?
Is that?
No. Youngster.
No, I take that back, because I started and then I got out of it for a while, so I think that particular job would have been early 80s. Because after that, I think it was all carts.
Yeah.
Yeah. What year is it now? Okay. Tough math.
Was there anything that you had learned in theater that helped you out when you first started in radio?
Oh, I think tons. I think just the ability to relate to people, and hopefully the ability to... No, okay. No. The answer to that question is no. No, I think so. I think the ability to tell a story, the ability to talk. I think a lot of that, in doing spots. Patty does great production work, and she does a lot of voices and stuff. So her theatrical experience came in I think
I
comes
guess.
into,
I guess
into
if
play
you
a
look
lot.
at it in that way.
And when
yeah.
she negotiates a contract, I mean, she's acting like we're worth it. Are you kidding?
Just acting like I'm schizophrenic with multiple personalities, all PMSing. It works like a charm.
You ever seen 6 women PMS at one time inside of one body? You know what we're talking about.
How did you guys get to Mix 97.3? Was that your first job?
It was a
Is
bus
there?
accident, and
What did you do before Mix?
We got together as a team over across town, and then we got an offer from the Mix, and we've been there ever since. We're going into 7 years there, I believe.
What stations did you two work for together or separately beforehand? Like what styles of music?
That's narrowed down to ones we didn't work at. Country, I did all country up until the Mix.
Really?
Yeah, 2 different country stations, and the farm markets.
yeah. And I did mostly rock and pop up until Kickin', which is the country station we worked at for like 2 years, and that's where we started working together.
We did a stint in Omaha doing Croatian love music.
But that was
a couple of months. on the
forgettable.
outside, Yeah.
Have you two worked with other partners or
Mm-hmm.
what? What were those like? Were they fun?
Yeah.
Did you have a good time?
Yeah. Not nearly like it is working with Patty. I mean, we just we're friends and we enjoy being together, and that makes a lot of difference. And I was friends with the other different morning partners that I had.
He just wouldn't let him near his kids.
Yeah, but they just didn't like me. But it's just there's a real chemistry between the two of us, and we just enjoy being around each other, and that makes a lot of difference in this business.
What's a typical day like at Mix for your morning show?
Well, there's
God, I don't know if there is a typical day.
wake up, do a lot of drugs.
Coffee, anything that's in the kitchen that doesn't have bugs on it.
Yeah, talking drugs. We're talking ibuprofen. We're
There you
talking,
go.
nothing illicit.
No, get to work early, and
What time do you guys usually show up at the station?
I get out of the rec usually around 3:30 or so, and I'll jump online and look at some stuff and get some coffee made. And I usually try to get into the station between 4:30 and 5. And we do a lot of the show prep. We'll do the day before, and then the morning of, you want to touch base on stuff that happened overnight. You know, the news stories. Make sure that what you planned the day before is going to work with what's topical that day. And then as your show gets there, as the different people in your show get there, try to touch base and see where everybody's at, what kind of attitude you're in, what kind of things they're bringing to the table, and then go into the booth and try to pack 5 minutes of entertainment into 4 hours.
Do you guys have equal responsibility, or does one do
Different responsibilities, but equal.
what different responsibilities? Like Patty, what do you?
Ben
do
is
for the
really,
show?
he's really responsible for the direction that the show takes every day. He kind of puts together the whole thing. I just like to think of myself as the cleanup batter.
She tries to keep me from sounding too stupid.
But no, I mean, I think we put in equal amounts. It's just that he's better at direction. He's a good director.
Oh my gosh, excuse me. It's $5 every time I get better.
What's different about morning radio than the rest of the day? So far as
It's just more fun.
Really?
It
It's
is.
just more fun.
There's more freedom. The morning show, by and large, gets more freedom to do what they want, gets the opportunity to be more creative, and consequently, you get a little bit more, I guess, attention inside of the industry. And with that attention, you get a few more tools to work with, maybe a little bit more budget, and it's just as a person, it gives you an opportunity to be more creative.
What's the difference between radio and television in your eyes?
We're
as
not convicts. By and large, we have no criminal records. I know we both know a lot of TV people, and the difference is there's a lot more of a journalistic background for TV folks.
Oh yeah, yeah.
Our medium is more entertainment, unless you're into news radio or something.
You've been on the air for quite a while, both of you, together and separate.
Yeah.
What's one thing you've noticed over the years as you've been in the business longer and longer? What's one of the changes or one of the same patterns that you see from station to station or just in the business in general?
One of the biggest changes in the industry is deregulation
And consolidation, niche marketing.
Thank you, Larry Pressler.
Deregulation? What do you?
They deregulated the industry. It used to be in the old days that inside of a market you could own an AM and an FM, and that was it. Now you can own up to, I think it's 49% of the market. So
was this nationally or locally?
Oh yeah, that's national. So if you go into a market like the Twin Cities, you could feasibly own, 15 of the 30 stations. And nationwide, you see a lot of big companies buying up chunks of the market. And what that means, by and large, is there are fewer and fewer radio jobs. So for those people who are trying to get into radio, it's a lot tougher. It used to be in the old days where you could cut your teeth on an overnight position, learn how to spin the tunes and talk a little bit, and then kind of evolve inside of the industry. It's not like that anymore because those night positions have turned into satellite positions, and the overnight positions especially have turned into automated positions.
Really?
Or you're just a board op, yeah.
Or a board
You're
op.
just there to run the equipment.
Yeah.
What else have you seen going on in the radio industry? Like, kind of like towards this, the mid-'90s came forth, you heard a lot less music and you heard more talk. And that's kind of gone back down. What is your... Did that happen at Mix? Have you seen that happening on? Like in your morning show?
It's kind of cyclical. I mean, the whole industry is. I mean, at times you'll see top 40 on top, or you'll see adult contemporary, or rock, or talk, and you'll see it kind of go up and down and in and out, and it goes kind of in circles.
It trends kind of like everything else,
Things are more. I guess things are looser now than they used to be. I mean, you can get away, obviously, with more now than you used to be able to. I mean, you've got the shock jocks out there, and you've got the people that aren't afraid to say anything at all, and they can get away with it by and large. That's not what our show is all about, but there are those shows out there.
Speaking of shock jocks, like Howard Stern, Don Imus, and the rest of them, do you think...
They're idiots?
That's...
Oh, I'm sorry.
That wasn't the question. But we can answer it if you want us to.
Well, what is your general opinion on shock jocks? Do you like them? Do you,
No.
completely despise them? Or
I think it's too easy.
Yeah.
I think it's just too easy. And I think anybody can get up and, use foul language, flaunt naked women out there, whatever it is. I mean, that's easy. I think there are a lot of other things to do that you can entertain that take a little bit more effort, a little bit more thought, and by and large appeal tastefully to a mass audience.
do you think anything like that would happen around here? Do you think we could have our own local Howard Stern? Or
I think Sioux Falls is still too conservative for that kind of thing. I just don't think it would be accepted in general, nor do I think it should be. I think Howard Stern has a place, but I just don't think it's here.
You don't think it's here in town or on the airwaves?
Well, they tried Stern in particular in the Twin Cities,
Yeah.
and even in the Twin Cities, which is obviously a big metropolitan area, he didn't cut it.
I mean, this is still a part of the country where people want to, they want to know what's going on in their own community and stuff.
Shoot, when Patty says poopy on the air, we get calls.
But, I think there's always going to be, people are always going to want something local in terms of not just the people on the air, but what's going on in town and stuff. I mean, Stern and Imus are talking about what's going on in New York. Imus is very insidey in terms of the radio and television industry. And what fascinates me about him is how people can relate to him at all in this part of the country. I certainly can't, but maybe that's because I'm female.
Yeah,
I don't know.
yeah.
I just
And that's the whole thing, too. That's the whole thing about radio anymore is it's niche marketing. You look at a niche and you focus your whole broadcasting towards that. I mean, most of your shock jocks are targeting those 25 to 54 males, and that's who they're looking at.
Who do you guys target? Families or
Anybody with a wallet?
Yeah, pretty much.
No, we're a little older audience, 18 to 49. I mean, we're looking for those demographics.
What's going in, through your mind when you're on the air during live radio? I think
Try not
that's
to swear. Try not to swear.
I mean, that's kind of the big difference between radio and television is that on TV you may be on for like 30 minutes, an hour. Radio shifts are like 4 hours long. What's going through your mind during that whole time?
Well,
Many things. I mean, it's an evolution, and we plan out, when we do our 4-hour show, the last hour is basically music. So we've got 3 hours that we basically call our show. And when we look at that, we look at the different segments. You have different talk segments, you have your weather, your news, you have your music sweeps, you have in between songs, and they're little capsules of time, and you have to plan how to use all those capsules inside of the hour. So we look at the bigger chunks of time that we call talk sets or stop sets, and we look at the elements of entertainment in there. Is it going to be an informative element? Is it going to be an entertaining, something funny, something topical, something
public service oriented? Yeah.
And we also try to work in a lot of phone calls. We try to talk to a lot of people because to us, and we think to the listeners, it's a lot more fun because they're listening to the show, and obviously we want to make sure that they're part of it, and we want to share their feelings. So we encourage people to call up. And our main thought when they call up is, don't swear, don't swear.
Have you ever had to, like, bleep someone on the phone? Or yourselves, in fact?
Oh.
What?
Oh, my.
Maybe once.
She's like one big bleep.
Oh, no. My mother. No, my mother's one big bleep. But
you want to hear what her mom said?
Shh. Anyway.
Oh, okay.
So yeah, it happens.
What happens when? Do you have a time delay or something?
We have a really neat piece of equipment. Yes,
yes,
we do.
Seconds, so don't even think
about calling and swearing because yes, we do.
There are some stations that do, but we don't. But we try to watch that.
But we record almost everything.
Yeah, and we know exactly where you live if you swear.
Yeah.
These next bit of questions are just most of and worst of. What's been one of the more interesting shows you two have done separately or together?
Oh my goodness, most interesting.
You mean one particular show, or you mean?
Is there something that, like, when someone says, you know, what's a show that you remember, it sticks in your mind?
Boy, some of the, you know.
With him, there are so many.
Yeah.
I could tell you stories. There was the day that he was so sure that Christopher Columbus and the Pilgrims came over together.
You know, not a lot of people know that, but
no.
it is a fact.
But, you know, along with the Nina, the Pinta, and the Santa Maria, there was the Mayflower. You might remember that. Sometimes Ben's history, it just kind of gets, you know,
true.
Just kind of gets mixed up.
They came over with Sinclair?
Right. Yeah. There was the day we did a show on, and I think that's when we were at the other station, on breastfeeding. That was tremendously funny.
Yeah.
Tons and tons of calls and
pros and cons. But you know, over the years there've just been so many of those shows, and I think the most fun shows are the ones where the listeners really get involved. And some of those topics, like breastfeeding, I mean, it was a fun one, and it was in the news at that time because it said that the people that breastfeed as babies are by and large smarter. Now, were you breastfed? We'll have to check it out. I mean, you're smart. I'm just assuming you were breastfed. That's.
I was. He wasn't.
No. As a matter of fact, I don't think my mom had anything to do with me when I was being raised.
He was decanted like in Brave New World.
What's been your most embarrassing moments on the air?
Other than this. Okay.
Oh, boy. Do you want to go first?
Oh, I know what mine was.
I know what mine was,
I know
too.
a couple of them. The one I blocked from my memory totally. So, no, I'd say the one is when...
The day you forgot pants.
Yeah, well...
We were all in
that's number 3.
But...
I think we just hung up on somebody. And I forget what the topic was. I forget why they had called, but I remember we had just talked to them, and it was like they probably weren't the brightest bulb on the marquee. And I hung up the phone, and then I made some offhanded remark, which wasn't very nice, and certainly was not Midwestern in its nicety, and the mics were on.
Oh.
And I felt just horrible, you know. And they were stupid, and they deserved to be called stupid. But
he
it wasn't
just didn't
my
want
place
everybody
to,
hear it, you know. Well, for me, and this was a long time ago when I started in radio in Yankton, we had an engineer who was very Forrest Gump-like. And
her first radio station was actually on a train.
Yeah. Anyway, and he was up on the roof working on the NOAA weather radio antenna. And I was on the air in the middle of a newscast, and I saw the weather radio start crawling across the top of the board, and I knew that pretty soon it was going to fly off. and hit the floor if I didn't. So I reached out in the middle of the newscast, and I was holding on to it and trying to do the news. The harder I held, the harder he pulled. And pretty soon the whole assembly of the board, because there was like a stand-up part on it you could set stuff on, the whole thing crashed back against the wall.
Oh my.
It was just, you know, started a record. I just reached over and started a record.
What's been one of the more interesting things that you two have done together, such as like you've done marathons together?
Many, yeah. And those are fun. I mean, we just got done working with doing a marathon for a young guy in Sioux Falls, and it was just absolutely fun. Gary Kerf is his name, and it's just a great lad. And he needed, we're raising funds for a kidney transplant, actually to help defray some of the personal costs. But inside of the 3 days that we actually did the radiothon, I guess 2 days, but we really got to know Gary, and that was fun. That was a lot of fun.
In your early days, back before you went into radio, did you listen to radio as kids, as teenagers?
I don't listen to radio now.
Yeah, especially our show.
Yeah, never listen to us.
I didn't.
No, I didn't either. And
Did
even
you guys
now,
have any role models that you looked up to when you came into the business, or even beforehand?
I knew nothing about it. I
Really?
mean, for me, you know, like we said, our background was theater. And my first night on the air, because at that point I'd had no training, nothing, it was like walking in the space shuttle and having somebody go, okay, here you go. I didn't know how anything ran. I knew nothing. And it was the scariest moment in my entire life. So I was too busy just trying to keep from having dead silence to think about anything else. But I didn't really listen to radio, knew nothing about it in terms of having a role model, so.
I just knew it was a steady paycheck.
Yeah, I just knew that somebody would pay me for something besides acting, which made my parents very happy.
What's one of the biggest misconceptions or something that people just really don't know about radio or your guys' business?
I think one of the biggest things is a lot of people think you do your 3 hours or 4 hours and you go home and that's it. And especially my boss is watching, it's 12, 14 hours a day. But it is a lot of work. And as you plan your show, I mean, you find yourself being on all the time. And you're always looking for something to bring to the show, something to either talk about or something that'll trigger something else so it evolves into something. But I'd say that's one of the biggest misconceptions is the time.
What happens, like, if there's a morning where one of you is, you know, is really up and ready to go and the other one's really sluggish? Does one kind of then take over? Or?
He is always up and ready to go.
No, that's not true.
It's the truth. He is the most energetic person you will ever meet, and it is the truth.
But
it's hard to be down when you're around.
Is it hard to be? I mean, this is early morning. This is, you know, 6 o'clock, and probably, you know, 90% of your listeners aren't even up yet. You know, how do you?
The only thing we care about, Avi, is that the boss isn't.
Yeah.
Oh, we care.
How do you guys? How do you? You know, do it? How do you?
Well, with the three of
up
us, Jeff Harkness is the third person in the show, and with the three of us, that's the great thing about it. Because if you do come in with, you know, if you come in distracted or not in the best of mood, the other two are there to bring you back up and help you focus and help you stay on track. And that's the beauty of it. And that's the beauty of working with people that you really enjoy. It doesn't make it such a chore. So I think that's the way that we get up every day for it.
You have a few minutes left. These are just kind of in the future questions. What would you two like to do before you retire?
Happy.
I want to get the Powerball. I want to win that.
You know, we have this joke between us that we're just glad that our keys still fit in the door every day, because radio is such a volatile business, you know.
Do you see a lot of people come and go?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, we're, in the business anyway, for a morning show to stay together for as long as we have, or just any period of time, is the exception as opposed to the rule. And especially to be able to work in the Midwest and stay in a city this size continuously is an exception also. And we're both, you know, very happy for that. We both love Sioux Falls.
Are you two just, you know, separately or together, or is there going to be a day where you just think, you know, I'm ready for the next step, I'm ready to move to bigger markets? Or are you comfortable here in Sioux Falls and think this is where you like to live to a ripe old age?
You know, we talk about it occasionally about moving to a larger market, but it's like I always say, if this thing comes to an end, then I'm done in radio. you know.
Yeah, and one thing that we've always said over the years too, if it stops being fun, we're going to stop
Yeah.
doing it. Or if they kick us out, one or the other. Stops being fun,
one of
or
the
they kick
two.
us out. Yeah.
What's one of the biggest changes you've seen just overall in radio, as far as the on-air or off-air?
I don't know that.
The equipment, excuse me,
Yeah.
the technology, I think along with everything else in
Yeah.
the world, you know.
That really has changed a lot. It used to be there was a reel-to-reel machine, maybe you had a
If
reel-to-reel
you were
machine,
lucky, yeah.
a couple of turntables, and your commercials would be on card. And a lot of what you did is you had to worry about stacking up the commercials, getting the records out, and a lot of the time was taken up by just doing the mechanics, where now most of it's on hard drive, so you can concentrate on the show.
What's the future you see for radio? Do you see it staying where it is? Do you see it becoming popular like it was in the 50s? Or do you kind of see it dwindling down?
I think radio will always be that companion that everybody has used it as. I mean, when you get up in the morning, you hit the radio to get your weather, see if any ICBMs have been launched overnight, see who's, which spy has been caught. I think people will always utilize it for that. I think there'll be different tweakings and it'll evolve in different directions. But the great handy thing about radio is it's your friend. And I think people will always want that. I don't think you can replace it with CDs or satellite radio or digital TVs in your cars. I think they'll always want that.
Hope so.
Yeah. And we're banking on that.
Why did you guys choose radio and not television?
They're two distinctly different mediums. Distinctly different. The wife was just saying to me the other night, we were watching the TV the other night, and I have a great respect for a lot of the people in TV, and I call them friends. I mean, a lot of the local broadcasters. But it's a tough gig. I mean, you're working a lot of nights and long hours.
Plus, you have to have a journalistic background, like you mentioned earlier.
Yeah. Well, that's right. You have to be smart, too.
You have to be a journalist.
I forgot the biggest thing.
Yeah.
You guys have been together for a while. Do you enjoy coming into work every day and working with each other?
Every single day. It's the best part of my day.
Absolutely.
Well, Ben and Patty, thank you so much for being with us here today. I've had a good time. And I thank you two at home for watching us. I'm Avi Forstein, and I hope you tune in for our next edition of Face to Face. From all of us here at Owl TV, good night.